Hello, I'm John Hill, Media Director for the Detroit City Council Media Services Division. And today on Nonprofit Spotlight, we have a dynamic brother here with us who is the chairman and CEO of All for One nonprofit. He's fighting things like childhood obesity. He's fighting things in the neighborhood and in the community of illiteracy and making sure that children have the right for education. And so without further ado, Ishmael, I really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you for having me in short notice. We're pleased to be here in the city of Detroit, and we are also located in Wayne County and also Washtenaw County. All for One is a nonprofit 501c3 organization.
That was my first question. I was going to say, what exactly is All for One?
All for One is a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and we're here in the city of Detroit to rectify the illiteracy rate and the dropout rate, and also the childhood obesity programs that needs to be placed here in the city of Detroit. We located here downtown Detroit. We also have 4 schools that we have adopted this year.
Wow.
One to be Detroit Northwestern High School. The other is Frank Cody High School. The other one is Detroit Dixon Learning Academy, excuse me. And also we just became partners with the Detroit Lions. So we now adopted the Detroit Lions Academy.
You're working with these different schools and these different organizations, but I know you have some things coming up in the near future, and I was talking to you right before this segment, and you were telling me about you're fighting childhood obesity. I know President Pugh is really excited about obesity everywhere.
Correct.
I know that he's just partnered up with Councilmember Spivey to fight childhood obesity, because Councilmember Spivey is part of that movement
Correct.
to really make sure that our kids grow up healthier, and they have teamed up with Dr. Edie, whose whole thing is to fight childhood obesity and obesity everywhere also. And they are actually coming up with a campaign where they're going to do an initiative coming up where they're asking people to not drink pop for a month.
Oh, that's huge.
That's huge. Yeah.
Well, we're fortunate to be the advocate for the Detroit Advocates program from the city of Detroit with the President of the United States.
Oh, that's a
so
and I know Michelle Obama, I'm sorry, the First Lady. Let me call the name that she deserves and that she respects. But the First Lady is big with fighting this effort and make sure that children stay healthy.
That is true, and that's why we had the meeting with her 6 months ago, pertaining to becoming a strong advocate here. We know that the city of Detroit is ranked number 3 in childhood obesity. That's 3 out of all 50 states.
So we're the 3rd highest. We made the top 3. Highest. And let me just say this: we don't want to make the top 3 in this.
No,
we want to be 50.
Correct.
We want to be the healthiest.
And probably none. The reason why we want this is we have to have longevity. We have to look at the idea that Barack Obama, the President of the United States, wants to pass along this health care to have us live a long life. And with that, we want to give children the opportunity to have activities. We're working with the President's Challenge to be the voice of reasoning for why children need to have a healthier life. Creating programs inside of the schools. As we adopt these schools, we're bringing in national programming to these schools to allow them to understand their BMIs, from healthy cooking tips from Gleaners, who we partnered up with to teach you how to healthy eating but healthy cooking.
That's excellent. Gleaners does, and all the people that you mentioned, they do some extra things.
Yes.
People don't know this, but there's a lot of places right here in Detroit every day that promote healthy eating and healthy practices that people aren't really reaching out to. Can you name well, let me ask you this first of all: you're a bridge to a lot of these different organizations, I would take it.
You're
501c3.
Yes.
How can they get in touch with your organization if they need or want to find just more about not only what you do, but about your campaign and how to help fight childhood obesity?
Well, they can contact our office at 313-444-0241. Or they can go to our website, which is www.allforOneDetroit.org. That's www.allforone Detroit.org. And they can see all of the wonderful things that we do through our website. We have a map that'll show you all of the work that we have done from Washtenaw County to the city of Detroit.
That'll work. Well, let me stop you right there. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk about your literacy campaign, what you're doing to help change the face of Detroit and make sure that children have the right and the tools to read and to learn as much as they can. So we'll be right back with Ishmail Terry, the president and CEO of All for One nonprofit. So please stay tuned, and as I always say, grab your pen, grab your paper, call your mother, call your auntie, call your cousin, call your sister, your brother, anybody you know, call your friends, but let them know to tune in so we can find out about what's going on in Detroit to correct and to establish a totally literate society. We are the ones. We'll see you right after these messages.
Hey, this is Amari Stoudemire. If you see me play basketball, you know that on the court, my head's always in the game. But off the court, my head's usually in a book. That's right, I read every day. You might not think it, but reading is a lot like basketball. It's fun, it gets your heart pumping, and you get better at it the more you practice. When I read a good book, I feel stronger and smarter, and I bet you will too. Give it a try. You'll find that reading helps you stand tall and talented. They don't call me Stat for nothing.
I'm Jessica Alba.
I'm Star Jones. We are Americans. We are all created equal.
We all have an equal voice in the voting booth.
That's what makes America great.
That's what makes America great.
Your vote, my vote, his vote, her vote, all equal.
Go to apvote.org to get all the information you need to prepare yourself to vote.
Thanks for staying with us. We're here with Ishmail Terry, who's the president and CEO, as I mentioned, for All for One nonprofit. And we're here on Nonprofit Spotlight. Ishmael, when we left off, we were talking about childhood obesity.
Correct.
But you're plugged in. All for One does a lot of things, and when people go to your website, they'll see all the things that you do. But there's another campaign that you're really fighting right now for literacy. And can you explain what that's all
what
about?
we're doing is we're doing a no dropout seminar. This is a citywide effect to battle the 70% dropout rate that handles here in the city of Detroit in our community-based schools. So we're taking the approach of a holistic approach.
I'm sorry, I know you're going and you have all the information in your head, but
Right.
what we have literally is a 70% dropout rate?
Correct. We use this, we found this out to, just like the state utilized a cohort informational piece to see in all of the districts what's the level between graduation and dropouts. And so we have that capability as well for our organization. And we show that in the city of Detroit, in our school district, 70% of the population that attends schools drop out.
Let me stop you right there. And this is, to me, and maybe I have to say I was ignorant, very ignorant to that fact and it being so high.
Right.
And so this is breaking news to me is what I was going to say. But what age do people drop out? What grade do most of the people drop out in?
Well, we see now that most of the children that drop out of school now are from your 9th grade to your 10th grade. And then they start actually in your 5th grade to your 8th grade.
Wow.
That you have this high number that
So
literally
kids
just
start
drops
dropping
out
out of school in 5th grade.
Yes, sir.
How is that possible
Well-
for kids to drop out? I mean, because you got your parents. So what's going on, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Well, the problem is that, of course, you have a lot of single parents' homes. So they're working, and they don't have the opportunity to be able to keep control of their children. So majority of them do skip school or bail out of school because
the
they
parent-
have the environment. And it's more of a cultural problem
Okay.
than it is a school problem. When the people outside of their area are illiterate as well and not based on structure of education, it follows through. So because of that, young men and young ladies across the city of Detroit are dropping out hand and foot. So what we did was we used a holistic approach on how to develop a structural piece, an educational piece that will keep a child in school. So with that, we have committed to taking our programs and making them into curriculums. We're now looking at a center to build an adult learning center here in the city of Detroit to combat those issues, to handle GED, to give accreditations, to be able to make sure that they be able to go to college. Also, to be able to give them a scholarship. We just developed the first Ida Mae Jones scholarship, a $3,000 scholarship to give to students in not just our adopted schools, but to to area school students as well.
Now, what I found out recently is that a lot of people don't know their history as well as they should, or as well as we should, and I'm guilty of this. But can you enlighten people about who Ida Mae Jones is?
Ida Mae Jones was my grandmother, a young lady who had to learn how to read through the Bible, coming from Coahoma, Mississippi in the slavery days, through segregation. She was here through all of those great fights, and one of those things that she could not do was read and write.
Right.
And so because she had her education given to her by the Bible, like most in that era, she placed a direct approach on education for her children, my mother and my auntie, and then us. It just traveled.
You know, and that's excellent, man. So you come from a long lineage of people that were in it to win it and in it to help people. And I wrote something the other day. Somebody sent me something, and I wrote them back. Through helping people is how we truly find our path.
Correct.
And it's funny that you said reading the Bible, because that's the way that a lot of our parents or grandparents and things, like the Bible was always in the house.
Correct.
And that's how they learned how to, to read and pass it on down. But just because somebody can't read, we had Dr. Wilson here from Detroit Human Matrix.
Okay.
Or Human Matrix Services.
Correct.
And she was, talking about the literacy, problem in Detroit.
Right.
But just because somebody can't read does not mean they're not smart. You have some brilliant people that cannot read. So through your adult learning centers, and I guess I want to impress upon this point, when is somebody too old to learn how to read?
You're never too old. You're never too old to go to college. You're never too old to read. It's just like getting on a bike. Once you fall off, it's easy to get back on it. The problem is our self-esteem.
Right.
Okay, and the idea that we can't needs to be removed out of our language. What it is that we need to recognize the ideas that we can build upon what other issues that we may have, but it just takes some time to do it. And that's what All for One brings. It gives you the opportunity to take your time. We're not rushing you through the system, because everyone learns differently. So when you come to this center, you'll learn how not just to be a writer, comprehensive, math, science, history, those things that we'll be offering to you, but you'll be able to learn in your capacity, under your ideals, and then you'll be able to go forward in education. You'll be able to read a book and understand the book, because reading a book is fine, but understanding the book is great.
Is the key.
So education is a loss. When we see that the numbers show that 7,500 go into incarcerating you and 3,500 to educate you, we see a huge disadvantage for low, moderate income and families. If we can take the time to look at the state and say, do not take money out of education to balance a budget. Those are the most impactful moments of a young person's life, when you go into a school and they see another who represent them and say to you, hey, look, I want to have books in my school. I want to be able to take the books home, because that's what we're getting out here in Detroit. You can't even take the books that you have in DPS or charter or academy. You can't take them home to learn.
That's crazy, because that's all I know. When I grew up, we had to take the books home.
Correct.
How
can you do a report without taking a book
home? I guess, and I guess one thing that they're looking at, which is crazy. First of all, there's something about the touch, the feel, the texture, holding a book in your hand and reading it. But they're expecting us to pick up all this information over the internet or over the computer. But a lot of our families, Dr. Wilson from Detroit Human Matrix was talking about, or Matrix Services, was talking about the fact of what our poverty rate is in Detroit. A lot of people don't have computers. A lot of people don't have internet. So if the kid can't take the book home, you can't go by the same principle. They can just find it on the net or things like that. Right, because they don't have. So that's a really touching and good point that you're making about them not being able to take the books home.
Well, you got to also remember this. The children of today are a lot more advanced than we were in our era.
Yeah.
And so for them to say that I can't get to a computer is wrong, because your phone is a computer now.
But a lot of
your